We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel, ring that notification bell, smash the like button if you like our content, share the video with your family and friends, and if you want to support this college football's rebel outpost, the home for the college football sickos, with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel, just hit that $ where you make your comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend. I need to start off this live show with a couple apologies. Yes, I have. There are times where I need to come out and apologize to some members of the PATC family or all the members of the PATC family, but I'm going to apologize to one OPD Don. Because yesterday he asked me a question about this video I was going to put out for the ACC, and I said it's all obsolete. But then I promised him, and I told him, and I told all of you that we do have this little bit of information when it comes to the Big Ten, but I wasn't just going to put it out there that I was going to give you guys a couple of days warning and talk about it. That's not going to happen because I'm going to talk about it on this live show. So OPD Don, if you end up watching the show, if you come in the chat room, I'm going against what I said yesterday. I apologize. There are reasons for why I'm going to put a little bit of a nugget of information out there today, okay? It's not a whole lot. I'm not promising a rose garden. But it's not much, but it is something. And it's coming from somewhere, and I will get into why it's coming from somewhere that has a really great track record with PATC. The Big Ten, look, we talk about the Big Ten when they expand again, and I still believe someday they're going to expand again, although the Holy Smokes Theater is closed for now with the UC investment situation going on. But we have been reminded here this happened this weekend, and then I was told about it on Monday. But this weekend there was a dinner at a certain establishment somewhere in the Midwest, and it did not happen in Minnesota, between somebody that I know and somebody that I do not know personally, but that second person helped us a great deal in the spring of 2022, especially one particular day. And I don't want to give you the specific date because you're going to go back into my episodes, go back in episode 22. You're going to figure, you might figure this all out. So I got to be very vague. But sometime in the month of May in 2022, this particular source was crucial. And I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on that. But anyways, somebody that I do not know personally, but I do know who he is, helped us greatly in May of 2022, told somebody that I'm very close to, a dinner somewhere in the Midwest this weekend. And what this person told the person that I'm very close to, who has done a lot of stuff with me in reports and stuff. The information is basically, this is what the Big Ten is, what they would need to accomplish in their next expansion. This is what they need to accomplish. Now, nothing is imminent, especially, and it's never been imminent. It hasn't been imminent since Washington and Oregon signed on. But you know, when the Big Ten added Washington and Oregon, there was specific items that the Big Ten needed from Oregon and Washington. it wasn't just Oregon and Washington saying, oh yeah, we'll come in at half the dollar. We'll come in at 50 cents on the dollar. There was more to that. There are specific things that the Big Ten is going to be looking for in a partnership with a 19th, with a 20th school. And this person told my guy what those are and added Big Ten needs better coaches. Needs programs. Okay. Anyway, we will get to that. Opie says Big Ten. No, Opie. Opie, where are you, Opie? I apologize, Opie. I don't know if you heard my apology to you earlier. I apologize. I'm going to talk about it today. Even though I told you I was going to give you guys a little bit of a run-up to this negative information. So, Opie D. Don, I lied to you. It was not an intentional lie, but here we are. I apologize to you, sir. I apologize. I wasn't trying to do a cloak and dagger. Boy, there's so many things in this story. I'm just going to hope that Opie forgives me. That's all I can do at this point. Possibly, yes. Yes, at BTM, somewhere in the Midwest was told, and I'm going to give you more. I'm going to tell you where this person. I'm going to end up telling you enough information to you where you know what, if you really want to know, what school this certain person represents in the Big Ten. But anyways, beyond that, there is a reason, and I put it in the title of the show, why Big Ten needs, what Big Ten needs to accomplish in their next expansion, and it's why Miami remains in good position. And that came from a certain person in the Big Ten. It does not mean that Miami has an offer. It does not mean that that something is imminent. No, it doesn't mean any. It just, this person explains what the Big Ten needs, what they need to accomplish, and he brought up this is why Miami is in a very good position. And of course, the expansion, if the Big Ten expands, and if they include Miami, it's going to be more than Miami. So this is not just a Miami story. Anyway, we'll get into that. First of all, unfortunately,
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up.
I don't know how many weeks in a row it's been. But I was Greg the Cooler once again. I think this might be 8 weeks in a row. It could be 9 weeks in a row. I don't know. I don't even know where my gold is. You know, my gold chain and my gold. I don't even know. My wife put it on last week. I put out a picture on X. If you go to my account, there is Mireya Hernandez Flugar wearing the gold, wearing my outfit, because she knows that I have not been able to wear it for weeks and weeks and weeks. Why? Because every single week I go below 500. I did it again last week. But not only that, and I've waited to Wednesday. I did not talk about it on Monday or Tuesday. I've waited today on. I'm hoping you guys forget. Greg the Cooler and what he has done in year 4. 4 years in a row of losing against the spread. Not only that, to make it even worse, to put salt in the wound, you guys had a very good week. And for the first time in a couple of months, your record, the PATC Gridiron Einsteins, you all have a better record than I have. You've gone past me. And this is the evidence. Here is the evidence. We're going to go through this real quick because, well, you know what? I already erased I apologize. You're just going to have to trust me on this. Mississippi State, I lost. You had Ole Miss, you won. I had Nebraska, I lost. You had Iowa, you won. Georgia Tech, I won. You had Georgia, you lost. Texas, I won. Texas A&M, you lost. We both had Pittsburgh, we both lost. We both had Clemson, we both won. I had Tennessee, lost. You had Vanderbilt, won. I had Duke win, you had Duke win. I had Washington, lost. You had Oregon win. I had LSU win. You had Oklahoma, lost. We both had Minnesota win. I had Auburn, lost. You had Alabama win. That was a 5.5 point spread, remember. And I had Michigan lost. You had Ohio State win. I went 6-7 against the spread. You all went 9-4 against the spread. My record for the year is 77 wins and 85 losses. Your record, the PATC Gridiron Einsteins, is now sitting at 80-82. You geniuses have a 3-game lead against Greg the Cooler as we head in to championship weekend. So we were going to be making our picks right now on the 9 championship games. I believe I don't know who goes first anymore. You let me know in the chat room who goes first. I don't even remember. Everything is a complete blur to me. I don't remember. The turn has tables. Vox Quindaro, you're killing me, Vox. You're absolutely killing me. Okay, let me go through some very generous super chats. And we've got a huge membership here. Ricky Tungate, holy smokes, Mr. Hoosier, he's getting ready. Ricky Tungate is getting ready. He is mounted up on his horse. He's going to ride through his home state of Indianapolis, Indiana. The Hoosiers versus the Buckeyes. I wonder who you guys are going to pick in that game. Indiana and Ohio State. I wonder who you're all going to have. The line is the Buckeyes -4.5. That's how much respect the Hoosiers are getting. That is how much respect the Hoosiers are getting. In the line, the over-under line is only 47.5. That's how much respect the defenses are getting in this game. absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Obi-Wan Kenobi, excuse me, B. Bastin, Stephen Barkus, CHJ229, and Ro Belland. You all gifted a membership by the incredible generosity of Ricky Tungate. When you have a moment in time, please, in the chat room, say thank you to Ricky Tungate for his incredible generosity. All of you are knighted. Cloak and Dagger, welcome to the family. Thank you, Ricky Tungate. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate it. A lot of people worrying about Penn State. I don't know. Eva Badger is pissed off. We've got a super chat, Eva Badger. This Eva Badger is pissed off. It probably has to do with the recruiting. The Badgers lost a couple of their guys today, top guys. I know when you watched, I'm sure none of you did, but if you watched the Golden Gophers recruiting today, they kept highlighting the people they got from Wisconsin. So they were trying to give Wisconsin the needle here today on December 3rd. Look, the Badgers, when it comes to Luke Fickell, it all comes down to next year. And I don't think the high school class of this year is going to help Luke Fickell next year. It's got to be about the portal. The Badgers have got to mount up, and they've got to hit home runs in the portal. My number one question for the Evil Badgers: who is your quarterback next year? Is it Kata? Was it your true freshman this year? Are you going to give him the ball? Or is it going to be somebody else? Is it going to be Billy Edwards coming back? Who is the Wisconsin Badgers quarterback next year? Number one question for me. Thank you, Eva Badger, for your generosity. Thank you so very much. We've got Christopher Hooter Super Chat. Christopher Hooter, the Big Ten needs programs. Florida State. The SEC academics, UNC. Thank you for the $2 holler, LSU Tiger, Christopher Hooter. I will say that there may be a silver lining in all this for Florida State. There could be. We'll talk about it. I don't think the information that we're about to unload later in this program, I don't really think it's a negative for Florida State, to be honest. But we'll put it out there. Again, there was a dinner this weekend BTM had with somebody, and I'm going to give you more information on who this person was. And the information was, this is what the Big Ten needs to accomplish, what they want to accomplish in their next expansion. There are a couple items of this has to happen. So we'll get into it. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. I appreciate the generosity once again. Thank you so much. And then we got OPD Don. Holy smokes. Wow, monster super chat. And I thought maybe Opie was gonna drill me here. Wait, I came on right when I heard my name. Thought I was called to the principal's office again, but it's cool, GF. But I have tried to enter into HST, but it seems to be filled with cheese. Holy Smokes Theater, all kinds of Wisconsin cheese. So this is for the new wet dry vac you need to clean. Well, if that is true, if that report is true, it needs to be cleaned out. Now, I'm not anti-cheese. I'm anti-cheese with meat. In fact, the Little General, before, I swear to you, the Little General, about 30 minutes before I came on live, gave me a little plate. We've been very busy today. It's been complete chaos around the house. She gave me a plate of crackers with goat cheese. That is goat cheese that has cranberry in it and cinnamon. Cinnamon, cranberry, goat cheese on these specialized, I don't know what you name these crackers. Very good crackers with a little slice of jalapeno on top of the goat cheese. Spectacular. It was it picked me up. It picked me up. It got me into the studio, and we are going to hammer out this epic live show for you all because of cheese. Beautiful cheese. But there was no meat. And cheese and meat should be separated, and there's only a couple of exceptions, and you all know what that is. So, Opie, thank you so very much for your kindness, for your generosity. Thank you so very much. And I do apologize to you. I said yesterday, I'm not going to do this to you, Opie. I'm not going to just unload this story. I'm going to give you guys. But now I come in here and I'm unloading the story. And there are reasons for that, and I can't even get into the reasons for that. So, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of not following through on what I was going to tell you, what I was going to do, Opie. So my apologies. Thank you so much for your incredible generosity, despite me being an untrustworthy host. Thank you, Opie. Thank you so very much. I cannot wait. I might be wrong, but I think Wisconsin's turning a corner. Amari Latimer flipped from Wisconsin, Madison to West Virginia. I think did that just happen? Because I did not, I knew that West Virginia thought that might happen. To Mazda. To Mazda, man. It was earlier today. Okay. I might be getting it all. I know that Latimer was a possible flip to West Virginia. I did not know that happened early today. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I can't keep up with all of it. Okay, guys. Now, Don Scruggs. Who goes first? Josh Pates' head-to-head is 10 times as important as the other factors. Yeah, I get that. I get that A100 noted. First of all, somebody tell me who picks first. Because I don't want you guys and gals, I do not want to be accused of cheating. Okay? I don't want to be accused of rigging this. Now, again, 4 years of losing records. Again, I failed this year. I'm behind you guys. So if I'm a cheater, I'm a worse cheater than I am at picking games against the spread. I am the re-elected mayor of Loserville City when it comes to doing anything, to be honest with you. But when it comes, in this case, picking games against the spread. So if you're going to accuse me of cheating, then I'm even a worse cheater than I am at picking games. Daniel Gorby says, I think you pick first, Greg. Gridiron Einsteins go first. Let the biggest loser pick first. Well, that would be me. I'm going to go first. I might have a magical week, right? And I don't want to be accused of cheating. So I'm going to go first. Again, I'm 3. My record is 77 and 85. You guys are 80 and 82. Josh Pate also says that the number one rule is the SEC champion should always get a top 4 seed, even if they're ranked 9th and have 2 losses. I'm going to open up the phone lines after we do the picks and after I go through this Big Ten nugget of information. We're going to open up the phone lines. And you guys can give me your opinion on the playoffs and the rankings and everything. You all heard, I did a show. We did a live show. We did a live reaction show last night. But I'll just say this. It's obvious the playoffs are not big enough in this new world of college football. I think it's so obvious. It's truly something has got to change. And it's also obvious that the only correction you can make is make it bigger and add AQs to all the conferences, the power conferences. You cannot do a 5+11. You cannot do a 5+11. And by the way, my message to the Southeastern Conference, it's even going to get a little bit more trickier for you all because you're going to go to a 9th conference games. That's going to add losses to your records. 24 is the answer. And it's no logical sense that Alabama jumped Notre Dame last night. It doesn't make any sense at all. None. Now, it might have made logical sense for Alabama to be ahead of Notre Dame a week prior. In fact, I had Alabama ahead of Notre Dame a week prior. But to have Notre Dame ahead of Alabama and then flip it last night made no sense to me at all. And if you're going to have Notre Dame ahead of Miami now, and I would have Miami ahead of Notre Dame, I would. But if you're going to have Notre Dame ahead of Miami now, then how can it flip when both teams are idle? But again, and I know this is blasphemy when I say this, I know I become once again the most unpopular college football YouTube channel in the country when I say this, but Tony Petitti is correct. Tony Petitti is correct. He's correct. We have given the committee the impossible task. We all can complain about metrics. We all can complain about head-to-head. We all can do this. We all can ball control and efficiency and all this stuff. But we've given them the impossible task. Big conferences, imbalanced schedules, massive tiebreakers, top 4 teams in the conference race of all the Power Fours should be going to the playoffs, and then 6 more at-larges with 2 G5s, G6 teams in the future, playoff 24. In Notre Dame, there is something about Notre Dame that I think the Irish is going to have to realize here. If a team loses in the conference championship game, and if they play a competitive football game, they are not going to be punished for that. But if they win that conference championship game, like BYU, they're going to get all the benefits of that conference championship game. Alabama is going to get more of a benefit in that championship game, and the only way they're going to get punished if they get their doors blown off. The conference championship game has become, well, it has become sort of it has become a thorn in the Irish side. Notre Dame, they've always thought they had this advantage of not playing in a conference championship game, but really now it's sort of affecting them negatively. Just to put that, it's not enough for Notre Dame to join the conference. I'm not making that argument. They're always going to have playoff access, yada, yada, yada. I think the reason why the Irish are going to join a conference is because the ACC, something's going to happen to the ACC, and Notre Dame is going to have to figure out a different future. And it's not going to be in the ACC, so it's going to be somewhere else. But anyways, a few more things I just wanted to put up there. You let me know. You let me know with your phone calls, super chats, comments about the playoffs, and I will get to them later. First of all, we got to make our picks against the spread for the championship games. And then I got to tell you a little bit of Big Ten information we have received. BTM this weekend, dinner somewhere in the Midwest, and it was not Minnesota. Just going to put that out there. It was not Minnesota. I could give you another hint, but it would give it away. If you really think about it, you're going to figure out, some of you are going to figure a lot of this stuff out. But anyways, I'm not going to put it out there directly. All right, let's do this thing. All right, let's go. I go first. I go first. All right. Here we go. I see a few more super chats. I appreciate it. OBD Don, MBM, Evil Badger. Thank you so, guys. I will go through you. I will go through your super chats. Your very kind super chats after I make my picks and before you all make your picks. All right. Let's do this thing. Okay. Game 1. Troy at James Madison. The Sun Belt Conference Championship game. Does James Madison cover the minus 23.5 point spread versus Troy? I don't know why I'm doing that, because I'm making the picks. You're not making the picks. So I'm going to erase that. Here's the thing. 23.5 points is way too much, guys. Come on. If you look at what Troy has done, they played pretty good football this year. 8-4. There is no way that the metrics are showing that James Madison should be 23.5 point favorites. I think there is numbers added to this line because James Madison is going to want to whoop up on Troy as much as possible, right? Like, they really want to win this game by as much as possible. Is that enough? Guys, I'm taking Troy. That's too many points, man. I understand it. I get it, but it's too many points. I've got Troy. I know James Madison has all the motivation in the world to keep their foot on the gas pedal. But I'm going to take Troy. That is too many points. Sorry, guys. All right. Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Conference USA. I am going to be taking Kennesaw State. What a season for Kennesaw State. They joined FBS a couple of years ago. Jacksonville State did as well a couple of years ago. And look where they are in the championship. Jacksonville went to the championship game last year with Rich Rodriguez. They won it. But Kennesaw State is going to win it this time. I'm taking Kennesaw State. North Texas at Tulane. Wow. I got a feeling that Tulane's going to take this. I got a feeling that Tulane is going to take this. I think, look at the over-under number. I think North Texas, like they did against South Florida earlier this year, when they lost a 50-something to 30-something game, that's how I think this game is going to be. I think Tulane is going to win this game 48 to 38, something like that. I've got Tulane. More of a complete team. North Texas has got a couple superstars on that team. A great running back. The quarterback has been unbelievable, but I'm taking Tulane. UNLV, Boise State. I'm going to take Boise State in this one. A lot of tiebreakers. They use a lot of tiebreakers to figure out who's going to play in this championship game. UNLV has been hanging on by its fingernails. I'm taking Boise State. Miami of Ohio and Western Michigan. I'm a little surprised. That Western Michigan is only favored by 1.5. I'm taking Western Michigan. BYU, Texas Tech. Again, it's one of those, okay, so the James Madison line of 23.5 points over Troy. You understand the motivation. Of 23.5 points. James Madison is going to want to win as big as they possibly can. Texas Tech doesn't have that motivation in this game. The Red Raiders don't really have that. Look, the Red Raiders are going to be the number 4 seed in the playoffs. They're going to get a first round bye if they win this game by 21 points, by 12 points, or by 1 point. Red Raiders are going to be playing for the win. BYU is going to let it all hang out, right? Woo! I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do. I should really take a pass. Do I have one pass? The thing is, I think Texas Tech is just a monster of a team. Boy, jeez. This is why I'm Greg the Cooler. I'm going to take the Red Raiders. I'm taking the Red Raiders. I think BYU is going to come out. They're going to do all that they possibly can. Bear Bachmeier is going to have to get rid of the ball quick, and they're going to have to hit Morton. Those are the two keys for the Cougars. They've got to hit Morton. And Bear Bachmeier's got to get rid of the ball quickly. Run it quickly. Design run. Do not hesitate. Because that defensive line is going to chew them up like they did last time they played. Georgia at Alabama. I'm taking Georgia big. Georgia might beat Alabama so bad that Alabama's out of the playoffs. But either way, Georgia's going to win this football game. Alabama's a good football team. Don't get it twisted. But I think the Georgia Bulldogs are going to give the ball to Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier. Duke versus Virginia. And I'm going to take Virginia. Indiana and Ohio State, that's the last game. Woo! Baby. I'm going to take Ohio State. Okay, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Those are my picks. Now we're going to get your picks, and then I'm going to go through a story, information that was reported to BTM this weekend at dinner in the Midwest. We're going to get to it in a moment. Does James Madison cover the minus 23.5 point spread versus Troy? If you vote yes, you're taking James Madison and willing to give 23.5 points. If you vote no, you're taking Troy and you're receiving 23.5 points. The voting begins now. Troy at James Madison. Now, guys and gals, that line is juiced a little bit. Come on now. That line is juiced a little bit. That's a big line. Way too big of a line. And I think it's because they all believe that James Madison is not going to take their foot off the gas pedal. And maybe they're correct. But that's too big of a line. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 52% says no. That was a close vote. 52% of the Einsteins said no. Troy is going to cover. Troy is the pick. Does Kennesaw State cover the minus 2.5 point spread? I'm sorry. Hold on, everybody. I already screwed up. Does Kennesaw State, good grief, cover the minus 2.5 point spread versus Jacksonville State? If you vote yes, that means you want Kennesaw State and you're willing to give 2.5 points. If you vote no, you're taking Jacksonville State and you're going to be receiving 2.5 points. The voting begins now. All right, we got another close vote here. Another close vote. Going to give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, Kennesaw State is the pick for the Gridiron Einsteins and the PATC family. All right. Next one. And a tough one, in my opinion. Very tough football game. This one in BYU, Texas Tech. The lines. Now, I have a theory on Tulane. That's why I went big on Tulane. But North Texas has got some superstars on that team. Does North Texas cover the -2.5 point spread versus Tulane? If you vote yes, you're taking North Texas and you're willing to give 2.5 points. If you vote no, you're going to get Tulane and receive 2.5 points. The voting begins now. Does North Texas cover? So far, your voting has been very close in these games. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 52% says North Texas. Yes, they will cover. UNLV and Boise State. Does Boise State cover the -4.5 point spread versus UNLV? If you vote yes, you're taking Boise State and you're willing to give 4.5 points. If you vote no, you're taking the UNLV Rebels and you're going to be receiving 4.5 points. The voting begins now. Going into this week, yours truly, 77-85 against the spread. The PATC Gridiron Einsteins are 80-82. You guys are only 2 games below 500. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 52% says no. You all are taking UNLV. Man, all of you guys' votes are close in these games. No landslides so far. Miami of Ohio and Western Michigan. The MAC Conference Championship game. Here we go. Does Western Michigan cover the -1.5 point spread versus Miami, Ohio? If you vote yes, you're taking Western Michigan and willing to give 1.5. If you vote no, you're taking Miami of Ohio and you're going to be receiving 1.5. The voting begins now. Five more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 54% says yes. Western Michigan is the pick. Again, no landslides thus far. No landslides. Rich Austin, better late than never. Greg the Gold is on. Let's go. Well, there is no Greg the Gold in the studio. Rich Austin, Greg the Gold has been Greg the Cooler for 8 or 9 straight weeks. You all have taken the lead on me. I am 77-85. You all are 80-82. The re-elected mayor of Loserville City is in the studio, not Greg the Gold. Here we go. We've got the SEC, the Southeastern Conference championship game. No, we don't. We got BYU and Texas Tech first. My bad. My bad, my bad. Here we go now. Does Texas Tech cover the minus 12.5 point spread versus BYU? If you vote yes, you are taking the Red Raiders and you're willing to give 12.5 points. If you vote no, you're taking the BYU Cougars and you're going to receive 12.5 points. The voting begins now. Another close vote. Another close one. We got 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 54% says yes. The Einsteins are taking Texas Tech. And that's what I took. But man, Georgia at Alabama. Georgia, Alabama. Not at Alabama, but SEC championship game. Does Georgia, who has a difficult time beating Alabama, does Georgia cover the minus 2.5 point spread versus Alabama? If you vote yes, that means you want the Georgia Bulldogs and you're willing to give 2.5 points. If you vote no, you're taking the Crimson Tide of Alabama and you're going to receive 2.5 points. The voting begins now. Rod Nix, this is for a very special lady in Minnesota. Roll Tide. Thank you, Rod Nix. Stormy Cyclone. Hello, everyone. It's Frosty the Flugard picking. I already made my picks. Stormy, and I'm going 9-0. I'm going 9-0. How do you like those apples, Stormy Cyclone? And by the way, Mr. Cyclone, the Golden Gophers might be playing you all in the bowl game. So buckle up, baby. Buckle up. Possibly, maybe. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 55% says yes. Georgia is the pick. I cannot believe the PATC Einsteins went the way of Don Scruggs. I cannot believe they went the same way as Don Scruggs in the chat room. All right. Duke in Virginia. The ACC championship game that we all predicted at the start of the season. Does Virginia cover the minus 3.5 point spread versus Duke? If you vote yes, you're taking the Cavaliers and you're willing to give 3.5 points. If you vote no, you are taking the Blue Devils and you are receiving 3.5 points. The voting begins now. Not really any landslides from you guys today. No real consensus on any of these games. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 56% says yes. You all are taking Virginia. Indiana and the Buckeyes. The Big Ten championship game. The number 1, number 2 team in the country. The final game that you guys are making the pick on championship weekend. Does Ohio State cover the minus 4.5 point spread versus Indiana? If you vote yes, you're taking the Buckeyes, willing to give 4.5 points. If you vote no, you're taking the Hoosiers and receiving 4.5 points. The voting begins now. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. 59% takes the Ohio State Buckeyes. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. We have made our picks during the championship weekend. I took Troy. Hold on one second. We both took Troy. We both took Kennesaw State. I took Tulane. You all took North Texas. I took Boise State. You all took UNLV. And then the rest of them, we agreed. We both took Western Michigan. We both took Texas Tech to cover. We both took Georgia to cover. We both took Virginia to cover. We both took Ohio State to cover. So that is our picks. It's in the books, and we'll see what happens. All right. Before we get to the story of this weekend, let me get to a few more incredibly generous super chats here. Evil Badger. $5 holla. This Evil Badger had nothing to do with what happened, what was found in the Holy Smokes Theater. We've got cameras all over the place, Evil Badger, in the Holy Smokes Theater, and you were not on the camera. So you are innocent in our eyes. You are at least not guilty. But we believe you're innocent. Thank you, Evil Badger. Thank you for the $5 holler. I very much appreciate your generosity once again, sir. Thank you so very much. MBM Super Chat. Strategizing. PATC should just pick the same as Greg. Stay 3 wins ahead. Well, you almost did that. 2 games difference, but we got more games to go after that. Don't worry about it, MBM. I'm gonna close the gap a little bit this week, and then I'm gonna overtake you guys in the playoffs, in bowl games. Too many games left. I'm gonna overtake you guys. Thank you, MBM. Thank you for the $5 holler. We've got OPD done. $10 holler. What people don't realize is when the SEC adds the 9th conference game, their SOS gets harder. So that would mean that maybe another SEC team gets into the college football playoffs. That is what I believe will happen. Thank you, OPD Don. Thank you for your generosity once again, sir. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. OPD Don, I'm sure a lot of SEC people agree with OP. We've got Stormy Cyclone, Super Chat. Gophers are considered a pest. If we play, I have confidence that Goldie will be controlled by Cyclone Pest Management. Oh my God! Oh my God! Stormy Cyclone, thank you so much for the $5 holla. I appreciate it. Is there any rumors? Is there any steam about Matt Campbell possibly being the next Penn State head coach? Are there Mike Tomlin rumors out there that we're going to have to start considering? Now, again, nobody has told me about Mike Tomlin. Nobody has told me about Matt Campbell. They did tell me that the Kalani Sitake, those talks were real, and they were. But I haven't heard of anything else beyond. I have not heard of the Mike Tomlin stuff. That would be quite interesting, right? That would be quite interesting. Vox Quindaro, the strategy is inconsistent with the Gridiron Einstein's code of honor and exceptionalism. Wow. Wow. Gridiron Einstein's code of honor. And then, yes, Hartline is the new coach of South Florida Bulls. That is a great pickup by South Florida. They have won the day. Per me, Penn State is interviewing Greg Pflugar as the head coach. You know what? I am going to have to decline that interest. I'm going to have to decline the interview. I'm going to have to decline anybody who would ask me to interview for the head coaching job. I would not want to be a member of any organization that would want me to be a member. Any organization that would want Greg the Cooler, Greg the Loser, the re-elected mayor of Loserville City, to be a part of their organization, then I know that organization is not worth joining. So any organization that would want me, that organization is not worth joining. All right, let's get to the story of BTM. And then we're going to go to phone calls, and you guys can talk about the college football playoff rankings. We had a live show yesterday that was great. It was fantastic. A lot of people expressed their opinion. Go ahead and what the hell is this? Saudi Arabia is set to take 93% ownership of EA Sports in a $55 billion buyout with Silver Lake and Affinity Partners, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. The deal is said to include a $36.4 billion equity and $20 billion debt and would take EA private next year pending approval. Wow. That third-party money is going to come in. It's coming in on the video games. The Middle East Saudi money is coming in on EA Sports, the college football game, and it is going to be coming in at some point much deeper than that in college football. Okay. So, BTM. Now, this is old school because this is how I used to talk on X when we broke the when we were fortunate enough to break the Notre Dame men's hockey to the Big Ten and all these other stories that we used to break. But BTM had a dinner with a person in I'm going to just call it a state Midwest, sort of, but not Minnesota. This person, and some of you may be able to figure out maybe not the person, but where the person is, what school the person represents in the Big Ten. So let me take you back here. In 2022, and I'm not going to go through the whole story. You've heard me talk about it. A lot of people get upset when I go back and talk about it. But when we were reporting about the USC talks of the Big Ten, and USC was going to be a member of the Big Ten, and why it was all happening, there was a particular... Now, I'm going to give you guys some clues. Some of you are going to figure this out. But I just can't directly tell you who this person was. There was a particular athletic director in the Big Ten that came out and said, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically saying, there's nothing to the Big Ten expanding. We're not. I can't quite remember the words that were used, but he said it in public. It was publicized all over the place. I believe it happened. I'm pretty sure it happened in the month of May. I'm almost 100% sure it happened in the month of May. This was 2022. This Big Ten athletic director came out and said nothing to it, no talks, whatever, about the expanding. Now, remember, nobody was talking about the Big Ten expanding except for the fat guy in Minnesota, because we got this information. We got a whole bunch of information on the USC thing, and I was being called crazy and everything. And I kept saying, So this athletic director came out, a Big Ten athletic director came out and said, nothing's happening. Well, it just so happens that at that time, when we first reported it in March 31st and in April and in May, we were able to get confirmation. We got a whole bunch of confirmation, but we were able to get one particular confirmation that this was truly going on. And that is one of the important pieces that I sent off to a few media companies, and USC 247 knew what I had and all that. And this was just one of those things that I had. There was a certain person working in a certain athletic department at a particular university in the Big Ten who confirmed to us that things were rolling along with USC. Now, I did not put that in a post. I did not put that in a tweet back in the day when it was Twitter, but we just had that in our back pocket. This person who confirmed to us, this person who's very close to BTM, who works at a university, not Minnesota, the athletic director who came out in May and said nothing is going on, that athletic director happened to be at the same school as this gentleman who told us, who confirmed this. So when this athletic director of a Big Ten university came out and said nothing is going on, I immediately got on the phone and said, what the hell, BTM? Our guy at that same university who works in the same building as this athletic director, he confirmed to us that it was rolling along. That was the term that was used. BTM got on the horn, and it did not take too long, came back to me real quick and said, what the athletic director of this particular university said is bleepity bleep bleep. The athletic director at this particular university, it was a cloak and dagger move. This athletic director was not being honest. Period. So by the time that this athletic director, when he said nothing was going on, and there was, and it's been turned out to be true that it was, obviously. By the time that I got back in the real world, because I'm working whatever, I was getting hammered by so many people saying, "Oh, Flugard, nothing's going on. USC's not talking. No one's talking the big no blah blah blah." And I basically said, "I'm as confident as I've ever been." Well, it turns out that 6 weeks later, it was late May. But anyway, so it turned out that everything, So what this guy did for us is he shot down his own athletic director's comments and told us right off the bat, this is a cloak and dagger move. This is a denial because they didn't want to get Houston chronicled. Remember at that point, their legal counsel guy was following me every time I made a comment on X. The Los Angeles Times, they did the whole story on it, and they investigated it, and everything I told them turned out to be true. And so this athletic director basically lied. I'm not going to tell you who lied. You can figure that out if you go back and watch how we reported the story, because I brought up the athletic director's name. So, having said all of that, the person who confirmed the story to us and also told us in the spring of 2022 that his own athletic director was putting out BS to try to cover the tracks of what the Big Ten was doing. This person, the same person at the same university, told BTM, not at the same restaurant, this weekend, he said, this is what the Big Ten wants to accomplish the next time they expand. Now that I've given you the backstory, and this is why when BTM called me after this dinner, I was not expecting anything, and really nothing is imminent, right? This isn't like but I was not really expecting any information for a while, but we got some. This person told BTM the following. The Big Ten wants to expand. They still want to expand. Most of the schools want to expand. It's a pretty far gone conclusion that they are going to expand. And there's lots of reasons for that. Demographics. They want to get into the South. There's also a media component to this. Remember when everybody says, well, you know, the ratings are the most important thing, and I keep saying they're very important, but they're not everything. When the Big Ten talked to Oregon and Washington, one of the things that the Big Ten needed from Oregon and Washington was, we need you to be okay with certain scheduling dynamics in which you would need to play on Friday nights. You need to get into that slot. In Oregon and Washington said yes. Now, if you've noticed, Fox's Friday ratings have shot way upward this year, in large part due to Washington and Oregon and the Big Ten putting a lot of juice into that Friday slot. But if you go ahead and Google, that Friday spot has become pretty financially good for Fox and for the Big Ten. And for other, of course, other media companies and their football content. So, going forward, the Big Ten believes that there's going to be another media partner that joins them. Either a fourth one, and I'm saying fourth one because, you know, it's Fox, it's NBC, it's CBS, and then you've got Peacock, which of course is NBC. It's either going to be a fourth one or a new third one, but it's probably going to be a fourth one. It's probably going to be 4. The Big Ten is probably going to add another media partner, which, by the way, in some ways, we've talked about this before, in some ways damages a little bit of their ratings, but it brings in more money. Okay? And that fourth partner most likely is going to be a gigantic streaming company. And it's probably going to be Netflix or Amazon. And I would give Amazon a little bit of the edge right now. But it could be Netflix. Or it could be somebody else. You know, depending on where Warner Brothers Discovery goes and where Max goes and all that, it could be another component to that. But most likely it's going to be Netflix or Amazon, with Amazon with the edge. For now. I'm just putting that out there. I'm putting that out there because this gentleman put it out there to our BTM. And so, the things that the Big Ten needs to accomplish, of course, they need to check all the boxes with their next expansion. They need to satisfy the presidents. They need to satisfy the media partners. And they might need to satisfy an investment firm. IC Investments or somebody else. So, getting back to the media component of this. Because we have been being told, and I've been giving you the peek around the corner but it has not been a clear peak. It has been foggy out there. But we have been told there are structural changes going to happen eventually with the Big Ten when it comes to Fox, and we don't know what that looks like. We do know that Fox, their relationship officially closes out with the Big Ten as of right now in 2036. Although, that could be, Fox could be the major partner of the Big Ten way past 2036. But that relationship right now commercially goes until 2036. Hold on just one moment, please. Give me one moment. I apologize. Give me one moment. Okay. So, sorry about that, guys. So what the media part of this, what the Big Ten wants to accomplish is to have the interest of a big streaming company and again, create value with their bandwidth of what they can offer to all their media companies. There are two components to this next media contract that the Big Ten wants to bring more value to their media partners and potential new media partner. The Big Ten is looking at two things. One, doubling up on Friday games. 2 games, back to back, on 2 different networks. Fox is going to keep that Friday night game, but then there's going to probably be an earlier Friday night game or a way later Friday game out of the prime time, a late one or an early one, but there's going to be a second Big Ten game on a Friday night. They're thinking about doubling up on it. But the real value that they need to capture, what they want to enhance besides the doubling up on Friday, is the month of November. Prime time in November. That is what the Big Ten is looking to ratchet up. And right now it's a little bit of an NBC issue, but they also want that streaming partner to have an opportunity to have those November games as well. So what they're looking for is schools that can give them home games that provide one of 2 or both things to the Big Ten. 1, a big football brand, or 2, a big football environment on a November primetime evening football. They need to ratchet that up. That's the piece that they're looking to add. There is a lot of universities in the Big Ten that do not want to host a night game in November. there is the top Big Ten schools. They're not going to host the Friday games. Oregon and Washington do right now. But when it comes to the biggest brands in the Big Ten, they have to, once in a while, one of them will acquiesce to that November home game. But they want the Big Ten, there are going to be times where they're going to want to double up on it and give that streaming partner not only NBC, but a streaming partner late night to have also a November night game. So, this gentleman telling BTM says that, of course, the Big Ten is looking into the Southeast for lots of reasons. Demographics, recruiting grounds, new markets, new sponsorship. We've talked about all of that. We've talked all about that, right? And he also went on to explain that, of course, the new school is going to have to come in, and they should come in without having a problem of being in a national conference. This gentleman, and I wasn't there, obviously. BTM told me he told me everything. He did not hold anything back. There are a couple of things that I can't talk about on this live show because there are some personalities that were thrown into it that were negative comments, and I'm not going to go down that road. Personalities that you would recognize if I said the name that are part of the Big Ten structure. But these schools are going to have to come in and say, we've got no problem being a member of a national conference. We got no problem playing home games prime time in November. You tell us we're going to play, we're going to play. Just like Oregon and Washington, they have fulfilled that obligation and they have hit a home run for the Big Ten. The same thing here. Whoever comes into the Big Ten, it's either got to be a big brand football or give the big football environment on a Saturday night in November. Media-wise, that's what they're looking at. Now, this conversation, this person, because he works in the same building as the athletic director of a certain university, one of our sources who keeps us folded into what he's been hearing, he keeps coming back to the Big Ten in Miami. It's very difficult to see the Big Ten expanding without Miami. Now, does Miami always give this great football environment on November? You know, they have the problem with the stadium being far away. No, but it's not always. Sometimes it's an incredible environment, but it's a big football brand. It's a big football brand that checks all the boxes. He said, he threw out like Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and then he mentioned Utah. And of course, I said to BTM, when he told me Utah was mentioned, I said to BTM, I said, you know, the last we heard, Utah, because the Buckeyes were controlling this, that Utah wasn't really on the list. And BTM says, I just got to tell you what this guy said. Utah, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, those schools fit the parameters of what the Big Ten needs when it comes to that particular part of the puzzle. Miami, how do I say this? Miami is not... Miami already doesn't have... They already really don't have neighbors, right? I mean, they're already on an island. Miami is not... They don't really have all these emotional ties to the ACC. They're not provincial. And I'm not saying that's negative. I'm just saying Miami already kind of thinks of themselves as a national type of brand. They're not really ACC. They're not Southeastern Conference. They could fit into the Big Ten. Yes, the travel would be huge for Miami. Obviously, just like for USC, and others. But if they're going to come in, they're going to have to know this is one of the hurdles of being. You're going to get paid a lot of money, but you're going to be on airplanes, just like they are now, but further trips. So he's talking about Miami, right? It's hard to see the Big Ten expanding without Miami. That's what this gentleman was telling BTM. He also said, and this is why I said it earlier. He says, the thing is, he says, the North Carolina. He came out. He said it's not even a matter. North Carolina has two options. This is what the Big Ten thinks. North Carolina basically has two options. Go to the go to the Southeastern Conference or create a new ACC. Their option of joining the Big Ten is basically over. Because unlike Virginia, where the Southeastern Conference interests, the people who were involved in Virginia and that interest, we've talked about it, that door is closing, that window is shutting, they're losing that power. North Carolina is completely different. North Carolina, the Southeastern Conference interests are even more entrenched now than they've ever been before. It's over, Johnny. He says the Big Ten's opportunity, it's over. And the Big Ten finally has to give it up. He says no one really truly believes that North Carolina is going to join the Big Ten. I'm telling you, this guy is the one who really helped us. A lot of people helped us with the USC story. This guy really did help us. And I've explained earlier in this program if you missed it. He's saying this North Carolina thing, it's not. And he brought up the athletic director of North. It's like, it ain't happening, Big. It's just is not happening. And we've talked about how the Big Ten is not going to act until they know exactly what North Carolina is going to do. They're going to make sure that North Carolina has rejected them. This guy is saying North Carolina is not going to join the national conference, the Big Ten. It ain't happening. Not happening. So because that is true, and because of what's going on in Virginia, this person says, this person was telling BTM, look, it's getting more and more difficult to see Duke if the Big Ten is going to expand by 2, it's more difficult to see Duke involved. It's more difficult to see Virginia involved. If it's going to be Miami, the Big Ten, this is what he said, and this is really the news that I had to get out today. Basically what he told BTM is, yes, we talked, I talk about blend. I talk about checking out the boxes. But what this guy was telling BTM is they really want to double down on what they need for their media partner. What they need for their next partner that's coming on in, which is probably going to be a big streaming company. And that big streaming company is probably, we don't know for sure, but that big streaming company is probably at some point in the future in the Big Ten going to have the Big Ten network be housed at that streaming company. But regardless, that's a whole nother conversation. That's part of something is happening in the Big Ten. Some big changes are going to be happening. So it probably, according to this guy, is going to be a doubling down on what they need to accomplish when it comes to their future media partners. Miami and something. That's what he believes. He's believing that because that is what he's being told. And Miami, Florida State, Miami, Utah, maybe a Miami, Georgia Tech, because honestly, Georgia, Atlanta, an incredible market. Something that the Big Ten wants. Is this a Miami, Georgia Tech? Is that enough? That's their Southern. But what he's basically telling us is this is why the Big Ten, one of the reasons why the Big Ten is truly committed to adding at least 2 schools in their next expansion. They see that they're going to get more value in expansion than a lot of people believe. People, reporters and things. The Big Ten thinks they're leaving money on the table. There are more slots to fill with big brand football in international markets. They want to seduce a large streaming company to come on in and be their partner eventually, but to be one of their media partners for 2029 and 30. The guy went on in great detail about Amazon. I took notes. I don't have the notes with me. I read them before, I read them last night again. There's a lot of things. Amazon in many ways has an affinity towards Michigan. Amazon, the leader of Amazon, I do not have the name of the person in front of me. You could Google it. And I'm not talking Jeff Bezos or whatever. The leader of the Amazon sports acquisition, that part of the Amazon company, go ahead and Google it. Not Jeff. That person is a Michigan person. They have an affinity of Michigan. They have put on, they had some sort of Michigan. Anyways, so this person went into great detail about how Amazon, they went hard after Big Ten content. Remember, during the last media negotiations, they were willing to spend more money than CBS and NBC, and it wasn't even close. But Kevin Warren, at the end of the day, did not know how the streaming would work. The Iowa was against Amazon coming on in. There were a couple of schools that were completely against it. Iowa was one of them. But now Amazon, of course, it's working with the NFL. They're going to be willing to spend top dollar, and the Big Ten might want to hitch their wagon to Amazon. But they're not the only option. But I'm just saying, the future is going to look different in the Big Ten than it is now, if they can hold together. So And remember, and again, the Ohio State is running this, right? They've got the votes. It's a faction of one when it comes to the schools. It's a faction of one when it comes to the schools and the Buckeyes. We have always heard that the Buckeyes, they want in Atlanta. They would like Miami. And we told you that the University of Michigan looks at Miami as a mini Michigan. We've said that over and over and over again. Look at the research they do. It's quite similar. Miami does it at a little bit less, lower numbers than Michigan, but they both do the genealogy, the genome stuff. That's what they do. Look at Miami, what they do. Look at what Michigan, what they do. So, again, I get it. The Big Ten has a fracture in it. The Big Ten isn't going to do anything imminent. But this guy who works at a Big Ten university, who helped us so much on the USC story, and you all can figure out who this school is that this guy works at if you go through all my notes and episode 22 of that. But he's basically saying that it's very difficult to see the Big Ten expanding without Miami, because Miami would be willing to do what the Big Ten needed them to do. They would have those prime time November games. They might even play on a Friday. Miami does that anyways, but they're willing to do that in the Big Ten, and that's what the Big Ten needs. A big brand research university in the South that would not have a problem being in a national conference. Would Florida State have a big problem with any of that? I'm guessing probably not. Would Utah have a problem with any of that? I'm guessing probably not. Utah on a prime time Saturday night on a Amazon streaming platform, probably not. On a Friday night, late night Friday night, probably not, because USC does not want to do it. Oregon and Washington, at some point, they're going to want to do less of it. Remember, Washington and Oregon agreed to it from now into 2029 and 30, but there may need to be another Western football brand that can cover that slot, especially if they're doubling up on a Friday and they want more primetime games in November. That's not being played on the Big Ten Network. That's being played on NBC and a major streaming platform. So that's why Miami, Florida State, Utah, of course, Clemson and Florida State, they have this hurdle to overcome when it comes to research. But Florida State is doing they're an emerging research university. Again, the Florida State and Miami blend. So I just want to bring that up tonight because this person, this person has, this person is deep within a Big Ten university, and he's been there for quite a while. And he has been a sounding board. He's been in the room. This is what the Big Ten wants to do. From a media standpoint, they want the option of doubling up on that Friday, and they want that Saturday night in November. They want that to pop. During the Big Ten, the last month, the conference, where things are getting really dramatic. They want that big football atmosphere at home games in November, in which the big brand football teams in the Big Ten kind of want to shy away from because they're doing all this other stuff for the Big Ten, right? All right, there it is, guys. All right. Let me get to your phone calls. Now you guys can complain about the college football rankings. Ricky Tungate. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan Thomas. I got to get to Ryan Thomas next. Ricky Tungate. Greg, didn't you mention Kansas and Utah not too long ago? Yes. I mean, Brett McMurphy mentioned Kansas and Utah. Brett McMurphy said that the Big Ten, he said it out in the open, he said the Big Ten had been, they're looking at expansion, obviously, in the future. Nothing is imminent, just like I've been saying, nothing is imminent. And he said the AAU schools are the ACC and the Big 12. And then, so obviously that means Kansas and Utah. And he did mention Utah specifically. Now, we have also heard Kansas and Utah. From chatter behind the curtain and all that. The last thing we heard, because it's a faction of one with you in the schools, Ohio State, Utah wasn't not on Ohio State's radar. Ohio State wants to get into Atlanta. They want to go southeast. And if they were going to go west, it would be Stanford. So Utah, I would say that Utah is a candidate for the Big Ten. I would put them back in the mix again because, and they probably were never out of the mix, but I would put them back in the mix because of what they are as a university, a new market. But this this information that this guy said to BTM, Utah would probably have no problem saying yes to what they would be asked to do. No problem being a national conference. And they would provide a atmosphere, November primetime games, and they would probably do it. So they're one of the schools, not too many out there really, that this guy is telling us stuff that he has been a sounding board, information inside a Big Ten university. So it's not just this guy's opinion. Now you all can say, well, I don't believe it. That's fine. But I'm just telling you, this guy has rode with us during stories in the past, especially the USC story. And now he's saying, boy, this is really important for the Big Ten. They're really looking at a major streaming company to come on in to be one of their partners. Possibly the fourth partner or replace the third partner. Doubling up on Friday night games and then having a possible doubling up on Saturday night games. And we need November home games in big football, major football environments. We need that addition. We need that juice. So Utah is one of those. Miami is one of those. Florida State is one of those. Clemson is one of those. Now, Clemson doesn't have exactly what the Big Ten presidents would want at this point when it comes to other items. So I don't know. It's like what he's mentioning is what would help this media situation when it comes to wanting to expand the value of that Saturday night in November and the doubling up on Friday night games. There's really not many out there. No offense to Kansas or all these other schools out there, but would they really move the needle on that Saturday night? Amazon, you got to go to it. You got to go to the streaming platform. Miami versus anybody in the Big Ten on a Saturday night in Miami in November. It's probably going to do well, and Amazon's probably going to be happy with it. Or NBC is going to be happy with it. Right, thank you for the $5 holler. I appreciate it. Ryan Thomas. Doubling down on my fight song request to see if I'm colder than Greg the Cooler. Go Cougs, and good luck to Texas Tech Red Raiders in the playoffs if they win. Thank you for the $5 holler, Ryan Thomas. Okay, it's official. If the BYU Cougars upset the Texas Tech Red Raiders in the Big 12 championship game, I will be singing the Brigham Young, the BYU fight song the following day. All right? I will practice, Ryan Thomas. I will practice it. I will perfect it. Not really. But anyways, thank you for the $5 holler, Ryan Thomas. You are on. Thank you so much for your generosity once again. I appreciate it. We've got another $5 holler. Then we're going to get your phone calls. I promise. I promise we're going to get your phone calls. Whew. Looks like I'm missing some stories here. Opie, I like it, Greg, when you say you're not going to talk about something. Thank you for the $5 holler. Thank you, Opie. Thank you for your incredible generosity tonight. My goodness. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm very humbled by your kindness. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, especially when I lied to you, Opie. Especially when I lied to you. All right, let's open up the phone lines. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. And again, you know, when the Big Ten expands again, you're going to have to satisfy the Big Ten presidents. The thing about it is, Miami does that as well. Really, they do. So, not even close to imminent. Not even close, guys. Not even close. There is so much going on, and now I'm not going to get into that, but phone lines are open. What about the college football playoff rankings? Give me your opinion on it. Give me your opinion on it. Tyler Knoll, to me, no other school west of the Mississippi raises the needle any. Pac-Man, go Texas Tech. James Davis, Florida State was the 9th most watched school this year. Let that sink in. Are we really getting our hopes up again about the Utah, the Big Ten? It's an option. It's an option. From a media standpoint and from a Big Ten president standpoint, it's an option. Again, now you gotta satisfy the Big Ten presidents, which Utah would, but you gotta satisfy the Ohio State University. No expansion is getting done without the Buckeyes' approval on this one. Remember, they acquiesced to the Washington and Oregon thing. But again, let's remember something. Oregon and Washington have delivered big time. Big time. So when it comes to what they've done on Friday nights, and it's not just them, it's Big Ten football Friday. People are getting more used to watching, but they have added that all of the Western editions have added the value to the Big Ten. It has worked to get into the southeastern part of the country, to bring new demographics, to bring students. And of course, it's going to help, in my opinion only. I could be my Big Ten bias coming up, but I think whatever schools will be added on the Big Ten, they're going to get more diverse. I mean, we've always heard this. We've been hearing the stories of schools in the South, in the Southeastern Conference, being able to attract the Northeastern students more and more and more because of the environment of the schools, the football program, the front porches of the program, the money that it takes. These schools are emerging in the South, and they've been bringing on a more diverse student population. Well, whoever gets added in the Big Ten in the South, they're going to be adding Midwest people, not just Northeastern people. They're going to be adding they're going to be opening their doors to a whole new student population. And the northern schools in the Big Ten are going to be opening up a potential to get more southern students into the northern schools. Diversity, a national athletic conference, right? Daniel Gorby, Ohio State knows there's a large amount of alumni in Florida. And there is an enormous amount. Now, here's the thing about Georgia Tech.
Call from
Scott Grable.
Scott Grable, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your patience. Here's the thing about Georgia Tech, guys. It's a massive market. Georgia Tech is about 8th in that market. They're behind Scott Grable's Alabama when it comes to interest in Atlanta. But it's a remarkably valuable market. Okay? And there is huge Big Ten alumni clubs in Atlanta. You can Google that. They've been there for 20 years. Ohio State has a big alumni club. Minnesota, Atlanta, Big Ten, it's huge down there. So a Georgia Tech sort of is a natural fit in some ways. In a lot of ways, it is. A university, it's a Big Ten university. Not the greatest brand, it's pretty good football environment, but it's not, but it's good. It's good. Not a needle mover, but it's good. It would help the demographics of the Big Ten. A lot of positives around Georgia Tech. But there is one item about Georgia Tech. That is not a hurdle for Miami. And I don't think it would be a hurdle for Florida State. And I don't think it would be a hurdle for Utah. Okay? But the one hurdle that Georgia Tech would have is they do have a strong affinity. They have become a strong ACC partner. Like, they do not want to separate from their ACC partners. They do not want to separate from North Carolina and Virginia. They do not want, in the past, to become a member of the Big Ten. They have said no to the Big Ten in the past. They've never considered themselves let's go, we want to be a part of the Big Ten. They've had opportunities in the past. They had that opportunity before Maryland and Rutgers had it. They want to be where Virginia and North Carolina is. Well, the problem is that North Carolina is probably going to be a member of the SEC, and Virginia is hanging in there. Now Virginia's doors are closed probably to the SEC because of internal politics. So Georgia Tech isn't, I mean, if they finally say, good, looks like we've got to run, it looks like we got to go to the Big Ten, then they're going to be a big time candidate, even though they're 6th, 7th, 8th in their own market when it comes to interest in sports. But Miami does not have that. Again, I'm only reporting to you all which I've been told. And again, from this weekend's dinner, BTM and this guy, Miami does not have that connection. They do not have the connection with North Carolina, Virginia, like Georgia Tech. They don't have, they have more of a connection with Boston College and things of that nature. They're ready to become in a national conference because they already have to operate as one in many ways anyways. And the city is different than, it's just a different breed. And Florida State would probably have no problem. No problem, right? They would have no problem with the breakaway. And I don't think Utah would as well. So, and I don't think Duke might be a part of the blend, right? Miami and Duke. But it doesn't, the way this guy communicated with BTM, because BTM really hammered it to me, he says, man, this is what the Big Ten is like. This is what we want because they eventually want to be a major partner with a major streaming company, and this is the first step towards that goal. Scott Grable, thank you for your patience. Mr. Alabama Crimson Tide, the floor is yours.
Okay, just to start out, Roll Tide, they're going to beat Georgia this weekend. That's just my opinion. We beat them every time. We'll just put that little puppy dog back in the doghouse.
It's kind of like Minnesota, Nebraska. Nebraska should have beat Minnesota this year, but we wasted them because they have a psychological issue with us, and I think Georgia has a psychological issue with you guys. But I did have to take Georgia. Go ahead, sir.
Exactly. But anyway, I'm old school. I'm your age, so I'm right around your age. I'm 59. But
yep.
The problem with me is all this expansion stuff.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to end up in a super conference 20 years down the road anyway. So if we're going to do this, let's just nip it in the butt. Let's bring back the old Southwest Conference, the old Pac-12. Let's take 66 teams, put 11 in each of the 6 conferences, make them geographical so it means something that is important, and go from there. Because that's what we're going to probably end up in 20 years from now anyway. Thank God I'll be dead because I miss the old.
So will I. So like,
but I miss the old like Southwest Conference and
I know
Pac-12 and that sort of thing because it meant something to those conferences. And if you brought it back with the current playoff model or something, you said, okay, these 66 teams, this is your super conference. You put 11 teams in each year. You have to play 10 in conference. So that means you play everybody in your conference every year, and then you play two against the other 60 or other 50-something teams left over. I just think it makes everything regional and it makes everything imported again because I think, honestly, if the SEC is looking to expand and the Big Ten's looking to expand, we're already going to be sitting at 45, 50 teams anyway. Let's pick up another 5 or 10 each and just disband everybody else. And I hate that for the the Big 12 and the ACC and all these conferences that we grew up with. It's just I don't agree with it, but that's probably what's going to end up happening anyway because the Big Ten and the SEC control the narrative. And that's all I got to say.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate the phone call, sir.
Yep. Have a good one.
You got it. Yeah, my mother is going to be rooting for Alabama this week against Georgia. So, 93-year-old Irish Catholic woman up here in Minnesota, freezing Minnesota, by the way, is going to be rooting for Alabama. Now, again, The problem with conferences going to regions once again, and you know what? Maybe someday that's going to happen. But the problem with maybe, you know, these large conferences are going to fracture. We've already got a fracture in the Big Ten. We do. We got a fracture in the Big Ten.
Call from
Tristan Fives.
Tristan, can you hold on for a moment, please?
Yes.
I appreciate it, sir. I do. You know, we already got this, you know, consternation in the Big Ten. Notre Dame is really pissed off at the ACC, and the ACC's upset with Notre Dame, and Notre Dame doesn't think the ACC should be putting up these graphics comparing Miami and Notre Dame. They believe the ACC should be putting up graphics saying, look at Miami compared to Alabama, look at Miami compared to Oklahoma, and all that stuff. The big problem with going back to regions is if these conferences are going to maintain their independence, in which they're going to control their own economics, their own media rights. There's only one part of the country that can hold up the value of a region conference, and that's the Southeastern Conference. You know, the Big Ten figured out early, man, if we get to this region and we go to that region, whatever, these media partners love it. They love a national conference, and they pay for it. The Big 12, Brett Yormark figured that out before the Pac-12 did. That's the problem. The NFL is, you know, they've got the NFC, the AFC, and within both their conferences, they've got divisions spread around the whole country. It's that bandwidth. It's that bandwidth that creates more value for the conference. You know, Arizona and Arizona State football is a lot more valuable being played in the Big 12 than it was in that one region Pac-12 conference. So, and of course, and if you say, well, then let's, Greg, then let's create a super league and let's have divisions that are based on regions. Well, again, some of those region divisions don't work for me, brother. I mean, there's some schools that have no history with other schools that are right next to them that would be part of the same division. So it's a difficult thing to put the toothpaste back in the tube and to get back to the days that me and Scott watched when we were young. I don't think we're going to go back to those days. Unfortunately, we might be looking at some sort of super league, elite super league of 48 or 40 teams, especially if we can't get anything done when it comes to getting a carve out at the federal level or getting schools to agree not to sue each other and all that stuff. The more and more time that we spend not being able to govern ourselves, the greater chance the Southeastern Conference is going to tell everybody bye-bye. The greater chance the Big Ten is going to say bye-bye. So we've got to get this thing together. We've got to get a carve-out. We've got to figure out how to govern a 70 school, 136 school FBS, whatever. Tristan 5, the floor is yours. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I want to agree with your last caller. He's right about Alabama. They are going to beat Georgia. And I want to give you a football reason.
Got it.
Not just say that it's mental. You know that Georgia's center appears to be injured, right? Drew Bobo, have you heard about that injury?
Mm-hmm.
He was on crutches and wearing a boot. And, you know, Georgia didn't do very well in the second half of that game against Georgia Tech offensively.
No, they did. They struggled.
Yeah, they did. And I think that's going to really be a major problem against Alabama. And so I'm picking Alabama to win that game outright. And we'll see what happens. I mean, Georgia's had a good year, but, man, that's a key injury. It feels like a key injury right now. I also want to talk about, you're listing off these schools that fit the bill for the Big Ten. Miami seems inevitable to me.
Yeah.
The Research University, they're AAU, they're in South Florida. They check a lot of boxes, and they don't appear to be an SEC type of school, so it's probably like Big Ten or bust for the Hurricanes, right? Now, but here's where I got to criticize the SEC. Previously, Greg, I had been critical of the Big Ten in regards to North Carolina. I've been complaining that they've been sitting on their hands trying to get North Carolina when they should have been getting a lot of North Carolina's travel partners from the ACC to try and sweeten the deal. But now I'm going to criticize the SEC in a similar way. If they, through their inaction, allow the Big Ten to get Miami and FSU or Miami and Georgia Tech, Greg, that is an epic fail of the SEC. I'm just putting it out there. That's an absolute failure if either of those scenarios plays out.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's a possibility because if we're penciling in Miami to the Big Ten, which I think it sounds like everyone's kind of on that page.
I'm not reporting that Miami's going to the Big Ten. So I'm not reporting that. I'm just saying it's what this gentleman said and other people. It's getting really difficult to see an expansion not including Miami. But we're not reporting that that's a done deal because obviously nothing is even imminent to happening. So.
Well, I understand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, look, we all know that the SEC values, for lack of a better word, a regional monopoly, regional dominance, or however you want to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Georgia Tech is not an elite football brand. But, Greg, they're the only other school in the state of Georgia. They're they're in downtown Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious. And for a conference that's struggling to improve academics, good gosh, you can't do a whole lot better than Georgia Tech. What the heck are they thinking? So I'm telling you right now, it would be a coup for the Big Ten if they could get Miami and FSU or Miami and Georgia Tech. And it would just be absolute negligence for the SEC to let that happen if they have the ability to do something about it, which they should.
Well, and again, that's another thing. I mean, the Southeastern Conference is not. They're not. I mean, I would be absolutely. I don't think the Southeastern Conference has any interest in Miami whatsoever, and I don't think they have any interest in Georgia Tech. Very little interest. So, again, those are two schools that the Big Ten can get.
I understand,
Yeah.
right? But I think it's a skewed perception.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Greg. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. I mean, I know, really, Georgia Tech they don't seem to bring a whole lot. But when you think about it, if you start growing that brand,
Yeah.
and they grow into something useful, I mean, hey, look at how they were this year. You go 9-3, 4 or 5 years in a row. Greg, they're not going to be sitting at the bottom of that totem pole. They're going to grow a fan base if they remain competitive. And listen, my family went to University of Miami games, Greg, before they canceled their program in the 70s. I don't know if people remember this or know this, but there was so little interest in the Miami Hurricanes, and they were such a bad team in the mid-70s
Yeah.
that they literally canceled the program. And then they shut it down for, I think, 2 years, and then they started it back up again and hired Schnellenberger. And look, if Miami can do it, so can Georgia Tech, right? It's possible for a university to change its fortunes. And hey, look, we're seeing it happen right now with Indiana, which I think is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really an incredible school.
Yeah, it is. And so I just think they're going to rue the day when they said, hey, we don't need Georgia Tech. And then the Big Ten probably will get them, and they'll grow into something very good for the conference. So I just want to level that criticism against the SEC because I think it's really short-sighted. Georgia is a treasured recruiting ground for the SEC, and they're just letting the Big Ten come right into it with Georgia Tech if they let that happen. So anyway, that's all I had, Greg. I'll talk at you later, and keep up the good work.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, buddy. Great call.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Again, great call. Again, the Holy Smokes Theater is not open. So nothing is imminent. But I thought it was important to bring this information to you. Again, if this guy says something completely different 6 months from now, I'm going to bring it to you. We heard all this Virginia, we followed the Virginia story, Virginia SEC, top targets, North Carolina, Virginia. We kept saying, but nothing is imminent. It's not happening yet. And look what's going to happen here in the next year with the election and possible, probably new governor in the Board of Visitors is going to change dramatically, and all that is happening. We try to provide you the peak around the corner. We don't have a crystal ball, and things are changing in Virginia. It's going to be so much more difficult for the Southeastern Conference to get Virginia. It really is. I mean, really difficult. So that probably, don't know for sure, is going to change the Southeastern Conference take on what they believe they can accomplish in their next expansion. And then we can't really, Virginia is a school that the Big Ten has wanted for a long time. So could it be a Miami, Virginia situation? Or, Florida State in Virginia or Utah in Virginia. But at least there has to be an addition, according to the gentleman who's been around for quite a while, who's been riding with us for, did a lot of great things in that USC story. Told BTM this weekend at dinner somewhere in the Midwest that, the Big Ten has to accomplish getting a football brand or a place that has big football environment that is willing to do the home games in November and possibly double up and having a home games on Fridays. Like, you're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to be able to work with the Big Ten. You're going to have to do what Washington and Oregon has decided to do for the next 4 or 5 years. And Oregon and Washington has been delivering for the Big Ten. So, look, I don't have the whole story. In fact, I don't think I really have any really good part of the story when it comes to this. Something is going to happen in the Big Ten when it comes to media partners. They're going to be bringing on a big streaming giant. And that's going to change a lot of the dynamics of the Big Ten. And that big streaming giant isn't going to call the shots entirely between 2029, 2030 to 2036. But somebody's going to become a big media partner for the Big Ten. And eventually they might take over Fox's spot. Could happen in 2036. And the bandwidth, the Big Ten wants to stretch it out even a little bit more. There's a little bit more spots on the TV slots that they would like to be able to fulfill for their media partners and get a whole lot more money out that. And it sounds like the doubling up on Friday games is a strong possibility, but doubling up on Saturday night is a very, and we're not talking like a BTN level football game. We're talking about like an NBC and then later on. That's why I don't know. There is, I better not say it. Anyways, so there you have it, guys. I want to thank everybody for joining us here on a December 3rd Wednesday night. We made our picks against the spread. We did it. We did 9 games. I want to thank Ricky Tungate, Eva Badger, Christopher Hooter, OPD Don, Jimmy Austin, MBM, Stormy Cyclone, Ryan Thomas. I appreciate all your generosities, guys. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you so much for all your time and putting the comments in the comment section and the great phone calls. Join us tomorrow as we do it all again. PATC, Peek Around the Corner. Buckle up, brace for impact. We're heading in the championship weekend. And I think there's other stories bubbling on the surface. Today was the signing day. The transfer portal is going to be opening up on January 2nd to January 16th. I'm going to tell you guys something, and I know you probably know this, but we're going to go ahead and emphasize this. Schools are finding out right now that there are players on their team that are not willing to sign the offer. And they know that certain guys are going to be going in the portal. They already know that. They already know that. I mean, not all their guys, but some of their guys. I know, for example, I'm not going to be saying any names, but there are Minnesota Golden Gopher players that have already agreed to the offer. And we know that they're coming back next year. And then there's other ones that are, not ready to go yet. So, or they haven't decided, but things are happening right now. So we're gonna hear stories of big names not officially entering the portal yet, because they can't do it until January 2nd, or their coach leaves for another job and gets hired. However that works out. But we are going to be hearing stories of guys that looks like they're going to be entering the portal. Those stories are going to leak. And of course, we're all waiting for the Penn State situation to unfold. So anyways, I appreciate it. Winningham is retiring on Friday. Thank you, Peter Johnson. Appreciate it. Greg, the SEC has surpassed the Big Ten in viewership by over 25%. I think the Southeastern Conference needs to figure out how to get more value out of their media partner, ESPN. Right? If you're having these big viewership numbers, but you're not making so much more than the Big Ten, then what has the Southeastern Conference done wrong? Having one real partner for your media, for your content, that's going to help juice up the ratings. But that isn't going to help you with the money. Southeastern Conference, you're going to have to learn this. You're going to have to get other media partners aboard to get even more money out of your beautiful and valuable content. And for the Big Ten, they've never needed to match the Southeastern Conference in ratings, because their demographics, their purchasing power across Big Ten country makes up for that. The national advertisers love Big Ten content. That's why they're willing to pay for it, because the consumers, the demographics in Big Ten country buy the products and services that the national advertisers advertise. So both the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten has their advantages and disadvantages. The Big Ten is trying to help out on their disadvantages, and I think the Southeastern Conference is going to try to strengthen their disadvantages here in the future. And that is to bring on markets that have a whole lot of purchasing power, and that includes the state of North Carolina, plus the students. Anyways, I've talked too much. And I thank you all, and I appreciate it. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, Golden Goal